All right, everyone, we are live and recording to the cloud as well.
Go ahead, Belén.
Okay, good morning and good afternoon or evening to everybody. It's really a pleasure to be together in this very important panel, which is passing the torch from Mexico City to Paris. So welcome to everyone who is part of this very exciting panel and for giving everybody else who is connected the attention to this very important event. I would like to start by mentioning to the audience that there will be a live chat open and all contributions are welcome via chat. The event will have simultaneous interpretation in English, Spanish, and French. So please just sign in and click the right button. And the event will also be broadcasted in Facebook and YouTube. So welcome to everyone. And I'm very happy to be in this countdown event towards Paris. I would like to, first of all, thank all the panelists who made themselves available for this very exciting exchange and passing the torch event. As you all recall, we had a fantastic Generation Equality Forum in Mexico City, as well as from Mexico to the world, a virtual event, a massive virtual event from March 29 to 31st, which was really the foundation of a very important process we are accompanying from UN Women with the governments of Mexico and Paris and civil society. And that's what brings us to Paris for the event that is about to start. My name is Belén Sanz. I'm country representative of UN Women in Mexico, and I've been asked to moderate this very exciting dialogue. The event today is really taking the format of a multi-stakeholder dialogue as well as an intergenerational dialogue in order to keep the spirit of what happened in Mexico and what is brought forward to Paris. What happened in Mexico, which we will hear some of it about today, was really the result of a collective effort of different forces and different efforts. And I really would like to thank the government of Mexico, also represented here by Vice Minister Marta Delgado, by President of Mujeres Nadine Gasman, and all the team from Mexico government, including Janet Morgan, the executive secretary of all this effort, but also civil society from Mexico and globally who really engaged and made this possible. And of course, UN Women who work together with all of you to make this possible. The event today will try to make a bridge between what happened in Mexico, the commitments, actions, and results, and the preparations for the forum in Paris. The panelists today will share the critical elements of the comprehensive plan proposed by the youth and civil society to guide action to achieve gender equality and women and girls' human rights. They will also reflect on the importance of intersectional and intergenerational lenses in the looking forward agenda and the civil society and youth 2026 vision that, as you know, was put forward in the event in Mexico. We will also hear about some of the commitments that were announced in Mexico at the closing of the event, including the discussion on the Global Alliance for Care that has been put forward by the Institute of Women in Mexico on behalf of the government of Mexico with UN Women. So we hope that this event will help us to revitalize our engagement, our conversation, and have that energy live towards Paris. So please allow me, before giving the floor to our distinguished and very committed panelists, to show you a pre-recorded message to revive some of the spirit of what we had in Mexico.
Daniela, please. Daniela? Oh, you need to share video sound, please.
we know that our governments and all those who make decisions are ready to step up for gender equality on your terms and take the leadership in making the commitments and to drive the commitments forward. Those who control power, resources, and influence must become champions for generation
Le
equality.
nouveau multilatéralisme que nous devons bâtir aujourd'hui sera assurément jugé à l'aune de notre capacité à promouvoir et à défendre ensemble les droits des femmes et des filles. D'abord parce que ces droits sont partout dangereusement remis en cause par la montée en puissance d'une véritable internationale du conservatisme, porteuse des pires régressions. Si l'égalité de genre doit être au cœur du nouveau multilatéralisme, c'est aussi parce que les défis d'aujourd'hui pèsent sur les femmes et les filles d'un poids particulier et particulièrement injuste. Dans des positions exigeantes, des situations parfois très précaires, elles sont souvent en première ligne face aux crises qui nous frappent aujourd'hui, de la crise pandémique à la crise climatique. Notre place est donc à leur côté.
Me da mucho gusto escucharles y seguir sus debates porque el feminismo mantiene un optimismo irredento, ¿no? Resuelto. Es una inconformidad con la situación como está, como ha estado, y es una aspiración permanente de cambiar todo, o si no todo, casi todo. Qué bueno. Pienso que lo que ustedes han planteado en el foro ahora es indispensable frente a lo que ha traído consigo la pandemia. La pandemia del COVID-19 ha traído otras desigualdades. Nada más vean quién tiene acceso y quién no a las vacunas hoy en el mundo. Es otra desigualdad de género y otra desigualdad más que vamos a tener que superar juntas y juntos estos próximos meses, estos años. Entonces, el llamado a la acción de este foro y el que vamos a tener ahora en París es una muy buena noticia para todas y para todos. Hay que comprometernos, hay que seguir en esa acción. Puede haber grandes cambios frente a nuevas desigualdades, grandes dificultades, una inmensa desigualdad social que tenemos. El camino es tomar este impulso que encabeza el feminismo y que siempre lo ha hecho para transformar nuestras sociedades, para jamás abandonar el optimismo que compromete, a pesar de todas las dificultades que haya. Si algo hay que aprenderle a ustedes es eso. Y su llamado a la acción, pues cuenten con México, siempre han contado, pero ahora más. Y si se trata de llegar a la igualdad con más profundidad y amplitud. Muchas gracias por lo que han planteado. Muchas gracias.
So with this remembrance of some of the key messages that emerged from Mexico, I would like to thank again the government of Mexico for that leadership and would like to introduce you to Marta Delgado, the Undersecretary for Multilateral Affairs and Human Rights at the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and would ask for her remarks in this opening. Marta, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Belén. I want to prevent the audience that I am going to speak in Spanish. So we have translation for these languages, and thank you very much for being today with us. Muy buenas tardes, tengan todas y todos. Saludo con mucho gusto, por supuesto, a la directora de ONU Mujeres en México, Belén. Muchas gracias por moderar esta sesión. También, por supuesto, a mi estimada Nadine Gasman, presidenta del Instituto de las Mujeres de México, a Hakima Abbas, representante del Grupo Asesor Global de la Sociedad Civil, a Chamathya Fernando, que representa a la Fuerza Juvenil de Tarea, a Nicolette Naylor, representante de la Fundación Ford, y a Eugenia López y Lucía Lagunes, representantes del Grupo Asesor de la Sociedad Civil Nacional, con quienes hemos caminado en todo este proceso. Muchas gracias por todo el proceso, no solamente por estar con nosotras el día de hoy. Es un gusto darles la más cordial bienvenida a este diálogo en donde vamos a tratar sobre los resultados de la primera etapa del Foro Generación Igualdad que fue lanzado en México el 29 al 31 de marzo pasado y que estará concluyendo aquí en París, en Francia, el día de mañana. Nos sentimos muy satisfechas por los logros alcanzados en el Foro de México. Se sentaron excelentes bases para lo que estamos seguros que tendrá una exitosa conclusión en Francia. Después de 2 largos años de preparación en circunstancias extraordinarias en las que nos encontramos, fue posible generar un espacio interactivo de más de 13,000 participantes que se dieron cita a lo largo de este foro. En México se congregaron gobiernos, sociedad civil, grupos feministas, jóvenes, adolescentes, el sector privado, fundaciones, agencias de las Naciones Unidas, organismos internacionales, el sector privado, los académicos, las académicas. Todos estuvieron conversando multisectorialmente y se abordaron en estos diálogos conversaciones sobre las desigualdades estructurales para implementar las 12 áreas de preocupación de la plataforma de acción de Beijing y acelerar su implementación. También se expresó la relevancia de apoyar a los movimientos feministas que están en el centro de este esfuerzo y se destacó la importancia de incluir la perspectiva de género para la recuperación de la pandemia por COVID-19 como la única alternativa para poder reconstruirnos de una manera más justa y más equitativa. Con un enfoque intersectorial se escucharon muchas voces, voces de mujeres con particular situación de vulnerabilidad, mujeres indígenas, mujeres con discapacidades, mujeres afrodescendientes, mujeres que viven en zonas rurales, refugiadas, mujeres de la comunidad LGBTTIQ y más, y todas ellas fueron expresando legítimamente sus demandas sobre los compromisos que se deben asumir para poder abordar los obstáculos estructurales que impiden la realización de sus derechos. No solamente en los países en vías de desarrollo, en todo el mundo estamos atendiendo a situaciones en donde la desigualdad entre hombres y mujeres está impidiendo este desarrollo. Las 6 coaliciones dieron cuenta de las acciones que han identificado y anunciado en el Plan de Aceleración Global para la Igualdad de Género que se van a desarrollar entre el año 2021 y el año 2026. También se presentó el Pacto sobre Mujer, Paz y Seguridad y Acción Humanitaria, a fin de promover acciones para abordar particularmente la vulnerabilidad de las mujeres en los conflictos armados y avanzar en la implementación de esta importantísima agenda. Las líderes juveniles lanzaron una visión para el año 2026, la sociedad civil lanzó el documento El Camino Feminista, también se presentaron compromisos catalizadores diseñados para movilizar mayores esfuerzos de toma de compromisos que van a ocupar lugar central en el Foro de París. Por ejemplo, la iniciativa del Instituto Nacional de las Mujeres de México con ONU Mujeres para hacer una alianza para el trabajo de cuidados, es una prioridad global, y también el apoyo financiero de Women Moving Millions de la agenda de las coaliciones de acción. Se anunció una alianza con la Fundación Ford, el Fondo de Igualdad y el Gobierno de Canadá, que incluye un compromiso financiero de la Fundación Ford para este fondo, el lanzamiento de una alianza global de movimientos feministas y el compromiso de Canadá de apoyar un fondo fiduciario de la ONU para eliminar la violencia contra las mujeres. También quisiera compartirles que por iniciativa de México se lanzó el grupo de amigos de la igualdad de género. Se sumaron a este grupo 20 países convencidos de que requerimos esfuerzos sistemáticos para avanzar en esta agenda y nos estaremos reuniendo consuetudinariamente en el marco de diferentes foros multilaterales. El cierre del evento estuvo marcado por una emotiva entrega de una antorcha a Francia por parte de las mujeres indígenas que custodiaron el fuego de la ofrenda Tlalmanali durante los 3 días de duración del foro. Amigas, amigos, México, estamos convencidos de que el sistema multilateral es una forma indispensable para abordar los obstáculos estructurales que impiden el desarrollo de las mujeres y de las niñas en el mundo y también impiden el abordar su problemática en la diversidad que requiere. Este ha sido un espíritu que ha animado a México a coorganizar con Francia el Foro Generación Igualdad, convocado por ONU Mujeres en alianza con la sociedad civil y con la juventud. Por eso es un gusto contar con la participación de las personalidades que nos acompañan hoy para profundizar en los resultados del Foro de México y entregarle la estafeta a Francia con la seguridad de que a partir de mañana vamos a continuar amplificando nuestras voces, nuestro compromiso por la acción. Mucho éxito, muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Marta Delgado, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mexico. I think Marta has given us an excellent summary of what actually happened in Mexico. So thank you for that, Marta, for your leadership and commitment to this very exciting and mobilizing effort, and for the revival of really the commitment that brings us from Beijing to Mexico, which has been such a milestone of what we are doing here. So I would like to pass over to some remembrance of what happened in Mexico before we pass into the dialogue. So please join us in watching this very short video.
In a year in which the pandemic sent us home, the Generation Equality Forum in Mexico brought us back together to create a new momentum for a world that is equal for all.
We want gender equality. Yes. When do we want it?
We celebrated the power of women in decision-making positions. They laid the foundations of a commitment to advance the next 5 years in the construction of gender equality.
Es a hablar de igualdad de género, pero también es poner en el centro la lucha por la igualdad.
Aucune crise, aucun obstacle ne doit entraver notre combat pour que chaque femme dans le monde puisse jouir entièrement.
Generation equality is the goal. It is the hope with which we establish new commitments and alliances between multiple stakeholders.
El feminismo mantiene un optimismo irredento, ¿no? Resuelto. Es una inconformidad con la situación como está, como ha estado, y es una aspiración permanente de cambiar todo, o si no todo, casi todo.
During the forum in Mexico, we saw thousands of women of all ages, sectors, population groups, and regions of the world working to advance an intergenerational and intersectional dialogue for transformative power. Healing, resilience, and safe spaces in this online forum enabled a historically diverse participation of feminist activists and leaders from all sectors, with youth at the center. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, women's rights were threatened, and the progress achieved in the last years was put at risk. Violence rates and obstacles to access education and work increased. In spite of this historic crisis, the Generation Equality knows that there is no time to lose, and it has concrete actions that need to be put in place.
Generation equality is not about negotiations, but decisive, collective, and urgent transformative action.
The Mexico Forum was a platform for catalytic and ambitious actions, such as resource mobilization and the definition of the blueprints to take the bold steps that equality needs. Civil society and youth also launched a feminist pathway and their 2026 vision. The group of Friends for Gender Equality that the government of Mexico launched reinforces these commitments at the international level to consolidate and advance women and girls' rights in the world. Today, we celebrate a new gathering in Paris, culminating the work we started in Mexico. Our strength is the hope, and equality is our future. Be part of this transformation. This is the Generation Equality Forum.
So I think we got a taste of the energy that was put in this amazing space and process that is bringing us together again. So please let me introduce the panelists, the people who will be in dialogue today that again bring different perspectives of that experience and especially what emerged from the forum. So we will have in our speakers today, Nadine Gasman, the President of the National Women's Institute of Mexico. Welcome, dear Nadine. Hakima Abbas, representative of the Global Civil Society Advisory Group. Welcome, Hakima. Chamathya Fernando, youth activist from Sri Lanka. Chamathya, member of the Generation Equality Forum Youth Task Force. Eugenia López, representative of the Generation Equality Forum in Mexico, CSAG. Nicolette Naylor, International Program Director for Gender, Racial, and Ethnic Justice of the Ford Foundation. Lucía Lagunes, representative of the Generation Equality Forum in Mexico, Civil Society Advisory Group. And my dear Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, Executive Director of UN Women. So welcome to all. The spirit of this space is to be an interactive dialogue, as it was the spirit of Mexico Forum. So I would like to start by asking my dear Nadine, what for you is the main significance of the Generation Equality Forum in Mexico, for Latin America, for the world, and especially why is it important for Mexico to show leadership among some issues or topics on a global alliance for care? So whatever you want to share, Nadine, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Belén, and I will be speaking in Spanish also. Quiero decirles y saludar con mucho cariño, mucha emoción a todas las que hemos estado en esta jornada juntas. Y realmente decir que el proceso del Foro Generación Igualdad ha puesto de manifiesto lo relativo del tiempo. Hace apenas 3 meses estábamos encontrándonos en México para celebrar la apertura del foro y parece que ha sido mucho más, particularmente por todo el trabajo que hemos desarrollado. En México hablamos de poder, de crisis, de esperanza, de tomar acciones colectivas y de celebrar la oportunidad de coincidir, de dibujar juntas la hoja de ruta para seguir el camino para lograr la igualdad sustantiva entre mujeres y para las mujeres. Es en esa oportunidad y gracias al esfuerzo colectivo de mujeres muy diversas, logramos avanzar en la definición de los mapas de ruta de las coaliciones de acción, sentamos las bases para la estrategia feminista que guiará nuestros pasos en los siguientes años, generamos acuerdos necesarios para avanzar en el cumplimiento de la plataforma de acción de Beijing y los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible de cara al 2030. En México reafirmamos nuestros compromisos con la igualdad y con el logro de los derechos de las mujeres. Y un ejemplo de eso es lo que nos propusimos, ¿no? Lo que estamos haciendo al interior de la Coalición de Acción sobre Justicia y Derechos Económicos de México, donde México somos una colíder para posicionar el tema de la economía de los cuidados como un asunto esencial para avanzar en una recuperación económica más justa, más igualitaria, más feminista. En el marco de la coalición de acción y con el invaluable apoyo de ONU Mujeres, hemos lanzado la Alianza Global por los Cuidados, una iniciativa que nos habla de lo que necesitamos aquí y ahora en todo el mundo, que es afrontar la carga desigual de los cuidados que obstaculiza las oportunidades económicas de las mujeres, haciendo un llamado, y estamos haciendo un llamado urgente a los gobiernos, a los organismos internacionales, a la sociedad civil, a la iniciativa privada, a las organizaciones filantrópicas y a otros socios estratégicos para transformar, cambiar la cultura y reducir las desigualdades, garantizando el reconocimiento, la reducción, la redistribución del trabajo doméstico y de cuidados entre actores corresponsables, así como la remuneración y el reconocimiento de los derechos de las trabajadoras de cuidados. Realmente esto es algo que el feminismo ha dicho hace mucho y que estamos poniendo hoy en la mesa, en el espacio, para que todo mundo se comprometa, porque entendemos que este es el momento. Hemos estado trabajando en este mes promoviendo esta alianza en varios foros internacionales y realmente la idea es que la gente se comprometa, ponga acciones en marcha, intercambie sus experiencias y sea parte de este esfuerzo global para cambiar la realidad. Hoy que llega el momento de pasar la antorcha de París, con mucha emoción quiero tomar prestadas las palabras de Isabel Allende, una gran escritora latinoamericana que dijo refiriéndose a las mujeres y el feminismo. A eso aspiramos las brujas buenas. Lo que deseamos no es una fantasía, es un proyecto. Entre todas podemos lograrlo. Muchas gracias de corazón a todas las que participaron en el Foro Generación de Igualdad por nuestro compromiso, por nuestras acciones firmes para lograr un mejor futuro para las mujeres y las niñas. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, querida Nadine. Thank you so much for your inspiring words and emotional words. I think we all share this moment of emotion, and also for putting forward such a transformational commitment as the Alliance for Care, of which you talked about, and how this forum was an opportunity to leverage and bring that forward. So thank you so much for your leadership. I would like to move to Chamathya. Chamathya Fernando, I really would like you to share with all of us, what is your takeaway from the Generation Equality Forum in Mexico in terms of furthering the feminist youth agenda and the gender equality agenda from your perspective?
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here and joining all of you today. I'm Chamathya Fernando, a youth activist from Sri Lanka and a member of the Generation Equality Youth Task Force. I'm also representing the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, the largest voluntary organization for girls and young women with 10 million in 152 countries. I remember going to Mexico, even though it was a virtual forum, but with a delegation from our organization and including adolescent girls, and how everyone was thrilled to be having that, almost a live experience going into a conference. And the experience with Mexico Forum was that we are thrilled to see the achievement of having 43% of the 13,000 or more participants to be young people. So we are thankful to UN Women, Government of Mexico, and Government of France, CSAG, for listening to our demands and ensuring youth are represented at all levels of GEF spaces, especially including the decision-making spaces. And the Youth Task Force is holding a seat at the core group, the key decision-making body of the Generation Equality Forum. Therefore, whether it's the Action Coalition Youth Leaders or the National Gender Youth Activists, I think we all came together to create that space, more enabling space at the Mexico Forum. I think my biggest takeaway hearing to all youth activists at the GEF spaces was that they're ready to lead. They're ready to take the challenge and to make change in the world. Therefore, I think we want to be co-creators, co-designers, and equal partners in this journey. And I think Mexico Forum was a platform where we saw that really coming out. And we hope to, and we expect that Paris is going to be the same. We already have the dedicated youth stage for youth-led, youth-focused, youth-serving organizations to bring young activists into the platform and hear their voices and the kind of work they're doing at the local grassroots levels. So I think from that learning that we had with Mexico Forum, now we are opening ourselves to the Paris Forum, and we are very, very excited. I think at this moment, what's really critical is that we should remember the kind of commitments we are expecting at the Paris Forum. We want them to be strong, We want them to be concrete. We want them to be realistic. We want them to be measurable, and also have adolescent and young people at the center of it. Coming from an organization that really empowers adolescent girls and young women to lead, to develop their skills, I know that investments and funding for girl-led, youth-led initiatives are core to have girls and young women leading in these spaces. Therefore, I encourage all stakeholders, whether it be governments, whether it be private sector, whether it be philanthropists, to come forward and ensure that we create a space where we can accelerate the progress towards gender equality. Also, not to forgetting that the kind of momentum that we are building with generation equality is coming at a very, very critical time, because we are facing the COVID-19 pandemic, and we know that women and girls are disproportionately affected, and we are in the verge of losing years of progress we've made on gender equality. Therefore, generation equality is coming at a time when we really want that push and those commitments to come in to ensure that we are not leaving anyone behind. We are not letting go of the kind of achievement we want to make with gender equality. Therefore, I encourage all young people, all adolescents, to come together, and we create this journey together, and we start this intergenerational, multi-stakeholder campaign, and we take it forward. Therefore, with that, I would really like to thank everyone who've been supporting the all youth structures within the generation equality spaces, but also we wish to create more spaces for more young people to come in, but also ensure that we have meaningful youth leadership in all our spaces. And we don't want to be tokenized anymore. We want them to hear their voices, but also take them into consideration. And we want to have this co-creating, co-owning spaces together with everyone and be equal partners in this transformative journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chamathya. Thank you so much for mobilizing all the youth voices from the different platforms you represent, and for bringing those reminding points to all of us. Thank you so much for reminding us the important commitments we need to push. I would like now to give the floor to Phumzile Ngcuka, my dear Phumzile, Executive Director of UN Women. ED, you championed our Generation Equality Forum in Mexico. Please let us know or share with all of us what is your takeaway from Mexico, what you take from Mexico to Paris, and how do we ensure that the vibration and transformative commitments that emerge from Mexico are taken forward to Paris and beyond. Welcome, Phumzile.
Thank you, Belén, and good afternoon to everybody. Well, as I am sitting here, I'm holding on to Mexico, ready to hand over to Paris, and it is exciting with anticipation. I have to say to everybody first, make sure that you, your friends, and everybody you can reach out is registered, because that is going to be nice, because we still have a few places that are open. The government of Mexico overcame all the challenges that we imagine to host a wonderful conference online in the middle of a pandemic. Also, the government of Mexico collaborated with the UN Women, and together we were able to bring about 13,000 participants into the platform. The close coordination with civil society of Mexico, Latin America, and everywhere in the world helped a lot to get both good participation, but also for the participants to be very outspoken on the issues they cared about. And from Mexico, we are taught about the importance of shedding female civil society to young women, adolescent girls that have creative solutions for long-standing problems. So in Mexico, we actually co-created with young people, with private sector, with member states, with philanthropic organizations, with civil society, And what came out of that was beautiful. And we're holding it together so that we take it all the way to Mexico as it was when we took it from Paris. And the women who are going to be here in Paris will hear all about what happened in Paris. I have to say, we are still looking for those target moving commitments, such as the $100 million that was committed by Million Moving Forwards in Mexico. We are looking for strong commitment to women, peace and security. We are looking for countries to come together for an issue they believe in, like Mexico did and brought together countries on the care economy, which is now standing tall as one of our important coalition. So this is not about talking. We are done talking. We are not coming here to complain and to explain to you about women's poverty. We are going to tell you what we together are going to do from now going forward. And we are looking forward to hear from you how this torch that we now hand to young people who are in the belly of the beast, ready to take things forward, ready to stand on our shoulders, are going to take this torch and take it forward. We copied so much from Mexico, and I hope the young people were also looking in Mexico what happened, so that they bring those tendencies from Mexico with them. And from now onwards, we look at them as significant actors in the struggle for gender equality, and we trust them to take the next step forward, and all of us together to move the agenda forward. And I thank you so much for today and the 3 days that are coming, which I hope will change the work and the way we work for women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phumzile. Thank you so much for bringing that level of inspiration to all of us towards Paris. We have high expectations as well from the Generation Equality Forum over there. We wish you all the best in the 3 days that are coming. And thank you so much for bringing that spirit to all of us from Mexico to Paris. So I would like to move to Eugenia, dear Eugenia, querida Eugenia. You have played a key role in bridging communication between the National Civil Society Advisory Group in Mexico with the global civil society that has accompanied all this effort. What are the main lessons that you'd like to share for effective coordination, cross-borders mobilization, and commitment making, and anything you'd like to share in this? Thank you, Eugenia.
Thank you, Belén. Well, I think that the main success that we have in the collaborative work is the pathway towards a feminist agenda for generation equality. And this is an initiative developed by the Global CSAG, the Mexico CSAG, the French Coalition, and the Generation Equality Youth Task Force. It is based on the input of nearly 500 feminist and women's civil society organizations from across 5 continents and 88 countries. And we did a global multilingual survey asking organizations about their priorities, successes, and challenges in implementing the Beijing Platform for Action. Their contributions are complemented with a review of nearly 200 organizational documents and proposals on the Beijing +25 agenda. When we gathered in Mexico, we affirmed our shared commitments to universal human rights, including civil, political, social, and cultural rights, bodily autonomy, safety and personal security, economic transformation for justice and sustainability, and environmental protection and climate action. We presented a series of recommendations to take swift and decisive action on each of these commitments. We commend all member states, UN agencies, and civil society stakeholders for boldly declaring their intention to be full partners in achieving gender equality. The funding commitments made by governments and private sector donors to support the implementation of the GEF Action Coalition targets are welcome and urgently needed to move towards a gender-responsive and feminist financing. The targets and indicators established in the Action Coalition Acceleration Plan must raise the standard for measurable impact on gender equality at the local, national, and global levels. Yet, significant communities and populations of women are conspicuously absent with this framework. As we collectively refine our vision for achieving our common goals by 2026, we call upon all stakeholders to prevent replicating the structural inequalities and power imbalances that this process is intended to eliminate. We must recognize the critical work in implementing the Beijing Platform for Action by grassroots and women-led organizations among historically oppressed, marginalized, criminalized, and undercounted communities. It is now time to fulfill promises. Our recommendations and actions are aimed at meaningful inclusion of all underrepresented and historically oppressed women and girls. The overwhelming majority of the organizations consulted report that financial constraints are their main challenge. Globally, the majority of feminist and women's-led CSOs who carry out the practical work of implementing and monitoring the Beijing Platform for Action operate on an annual budget of less than $30,000 US. Most of these are volunteer-driven. However, women-led civil society organizations have been faster than governments in achieving measurable success to transform discriminatory cultural and social norms. These efforts must be funded, expanded, and supported by laws and policies that uphold human rights and gender equality. A strong financial commitments and direct support by all member states and UN agencies are required to make this process tangible and sustainable. We call all decision makers, government ministries, private sectors, funders, and social leaders to take the following recommendations together with us the next 5 years. They reflect urgent priorities that are insufficiently addressed in the GEF process. First, gender-responsive financing. There is a severe and persistent need to reform financing to support gender equality. Second, rights and legal protection. We need to ratify, adopt, and applying international human rights laws to put the specific needs of women and girls at the center, and this is at the top of our agenda. Specifically, we demand that states ratify and adopt the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women and its optional protocol. Third, economic justice. We must collectively work to transform macroeconomic systems so they are gender responsive and sustainable. We call for the decrease of informal and precarious women's jobs and the creation of opportunities of decent work for women to decrease poverty. Fourth, environmental protection and climate action. These are the least addressed issues within the implementation of the Beijing Platform of Action. For the billions of women and girls whose lives are currently disrupted by natural disasters, environmental racism, and degradation of our land and water, the measures are too little and too late. We must support the girls and women who are leading community-based local efforts to protect their environments. And fifth, data for impact and accountability. Only by gathering and applying accurate, thorough, gender disaggregated data can we develop solutions that are evidence-based, gender responsive, and lasting. We require ongoing and transparent monitoring of the Beijing +25 agenda to ensure full accountability among state and non-state actors. As we stated in Mexico, women and girls can't continue to wait. We will be holding governments and other actors accountable for their political commitments and funding obligations to fulfill human rights. We will be presenting our vision for the feminist future in the next UNGA. Stop talking, start funding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eugenia. Thank you so much, not only for your great commitment in this process, but also for reminding us what is really in the feminist pathway agenda and the key outcomes that should really emerge from this mobilizing process that is the Generation Equality Forum. Thank you so much, Eugenia. I would like to move to Hakima Abbas, who would like, please, to share with us what does the Global Civil Society Advisory Group expect from Paris and the process from the Generation Equality Forum. How do we ensure that civil society's leadership is ensuring the way forward? Over to you, Hakima.
Thank you. This is a moment with potential to raise the bar and accelerate progress towards the full implementation of Beijing, a potential to strengthen feminist movements, for widespread recognition of feminist movements as key drivers of change, potential to forge new and strategic alliances, potential to address and dismantle power imbalances, to amplify the voices of those most impacted by global inequalities and least heard in international spaces, and to ensure that these voices play a meaningful and central role in decision-making and agenda setting. It's a moment for celebration, but also a moment to challenge, to question, to advance new ideas and approaches, to be bold and irreverent, to be insistent and committed. And it's a moment to dream big, but not just to dream. It's a moment to put in place means and mechanisms to see these dreams become reality. Because we all have to say enough is enough. 26 years is too long for real substantive change. We don't have another 25 years when 6 women around the world are killed every hour, most by men in their own families and their partners, when 1 in 3 women are subjected to physical or sexual violence, and every single day, 810 women die from preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth, where most women in prisons in some parts of the world are there because they've suffered obstetric emergencies. And where in the US alone, the number of transgender and non-conforming people who were murdered close to doubled in 2020, the majority of whom were Black and brown. And where women are taking any job at the expense of decent work and still can't access basic public services because of the siphoning of wealth from corporations and billionaires. When women human rights defenders and women running for political office face threats online and offline and are murdered. And these aren't siloed issues, they're manifestations of patriarchy that's deeply rooted in our societies, in our governance, in our economies. We have to dig it out from the roots. And along with it, the interlocking systems of white supremacy, class oppression, ableism, and ecocide. We have to act now to deal with this emergency. And as women's rights and feminist groups, as Eugenia said, will continue to demand, advocate, and mobilize our power. And we invite others to join the campaigns Stop Talking, Start Funding, and Je m'engage, to come, and we come to Paris with expectations. We expect everyone involved in the GEF process to make intersectionality a core principle of our collective work. And as a Black woman, I have to say, we know that that term was coined by a Black woman, legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw, and builds on centuries of Black women's theorizing and experience. And it's being used to frame a number of issues, and yet there's a comparative absence of Black women as subjects of global attention, support, and concern. We have to be serious about how we put Black women in all our diversities at the center. We expect the women and girls and gender diverse people who experience multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination to be centered in this process, and that their voices are not just heard, but acted upon and resourced. If we want to make a dent in patriarchy, trans, intersex, non-binary people, sex workers, women and girls with disabilities, and women and girls without digital access need to be full contributors to this process. We expect from governments leadership by example. Governments need to set the tone and set the bar for commitments to actions, must be committed to accelerating the realization of Beijing in their own countries, but also to champion transformative action elsewhere. We expect to see commitments, as Eugenia said, to implement new and existing international agreements, like the ILO Conventions on Domestic Work and Ending Violence and Harassment in the Workplace. And we want to see governments commit to forge new ground to advance gender equality throughout multilateral spaces. And we find the Friends of Gender Equality group led by Mexico a really warm and welcome start. From UN Women, we expect bold and visionary leadership and sustained partnership with women's rights, feminist and youth-led movements. And we want commitment to non-competition with feminist organizations when it comes to funding and in programming. Our roles are different and together can be powerful. I'll end by saying that with the UN, we expect strong, robust, well-resourced, streamlined and effective gender equality architecture and to ensure sustained efforts to implement Beijing. And from the private sector, we expect commitments to racial justice and gender equal workforces, gender transformative workplace policies, including the right to a living wage and decent working conditions throughout supply chains. And from all institutions and organizations in the Generation Equality Forum, we expect accountability, responsibility, and actions. Our expectations are high. Women, girls, gender diverse people around the world now and the generations to come deserve no less.
Thank you so much, Hakima, and thank you for reminding us of the expectations that civil society has and also what is expected from Paris and what is this moment of opportunity, but also raising the bar and all the points you made, very, very relevant. And I would like to move to my dear Lucía Lagunes, who, as we mentioned, is part of the Civil Society Advisory Group in Mexico. Lucía, from your experience and your long trajectory on supporting and defending women's human rights, how do we ensure that the Beijing Platform for Action continues to be at the center of the Generation Equality Forum? And what do you think is the main legacy from Mexico to France and beyond?
Muchas gracias, Belén, y muchas gracias por la invitación, por estar acá y por poder tener este diálogo con todas. Bueno, yo creo que en primer lugar hay que recordar que la plataforma de acción de Beijing es el gran aporte del movimiento feminista que marcó como ruta para desterrar la desigualdad y la discriminación que enfrentamos mujeres y niñas. Hace 25 años marcó esta ruta, o lo que es lo mismo, un cuarto de siglo. Ahí confirmamos la vigencia hoy que guarda la plataforma y por lo que desde el feminismo y nuestras organizaciones reiteramos no solo la urgencia para que se ratifique, sino que se fortalezcan las acciones para su cumplimiento. Hoy necesitamos pasar a la congruencia de los compromisos y los hechos precisamente para lograr este avance. Reconocemos que en ese esfuerzo es que se inscriben precisamente las coaliciones de acción como un instrumento para acelerar el cumplimiento de la plataforma de acción de Beijing y no como un sustituto de ella. El movimiento feminista ha dotado a la humanidad de una historia que se habían negado a reconocer, que es precisamente los aportes que hemos hecho las humanas, aún viviendo en condiciones de marginación en el acceso y goce de nuestros derechos. Si hay una característica del movimiento feminista, diría yo, es su generosidad para el avance de la humanidad, la cual no puede existir si se sigue condenando a la mitad de la población, que somos las humanas, a la desigualdad. Tal cual, yo creo que es importante reconocer, tal cual se hizo en Beijing al momento de construir la plataforma de acción que nace precisamente por este impulso del feminismo y las decisiones de los estados firmantes para promover los objetivos de igualdad, desarrollo y paz para todas las mujeres y niñas del mundo en interés de toda la humanidad y para garantizar la plena aplicación de los derechos humanos de las mujeres y las niñas como parte inalienable, integral e indivisible de todos los derechos humanos y las libertades fundamentales. Seguir nombrando a las mujeres y las niñas es parte fundamental de esos derechos que desde el feminismo reivindicamos y por lo cual nos negamos al borrado de las mujeres, pues dejar de identificarnos es volver a ocultarnos como humanas que somos y subsumirnos en la generalidad que nos oculta. Me parece fundamental que para seguir avanzando precisamente, y parte de las lecciones aprendidas en este México es precisamente identificar la pandemia de COVID como nos ha mostrado descarnadamente los retos de la desigualdad que enfrentamos en pleno siglo XXI. Ya decían al principio, Nadine, de lo importante que es colocar en esta reconstrucción del mundo tras el COVID la condición de los derechos humanos de mujeres y niñas. Hemos vivido un retroceso grave con esta pandemia y sabemos y estamos convencidas que colocar precisamente como hoja de ruta esta reconstrucción a la plataforma de acción de Beijing es precisamente parte de lo que necesitamos. Indudablemente el Foro Generación Igualdad que inició en México es parte de este proceso que hoy llega a Francia y que se celebra precisamente en el marco de este momento histórico que crea, que construye, que marca un parteaguas en la humanidad, que nunca nos imaginamos y que por supuesto nos ha sacudido y que ha llamado a redoblar los esfuerzos a los gobiernos en su conjunto sobre precisamente los retos que tenemos como humanidad. El camino a la igualdad para inexorablemente erradicar todas las violencias contra las mujeres y las niñas. No podemos solamente contabilizar el número y volvernos un número las mujeres, sino es necesario construir verdaderas estrategias integrales que permitan precisamente erradicar todas las formas de discriminación que vivimos las mujeres. México nos dejó una gran lección que surge precisamente desde el grupo asesor de la sociedad civil, que fue honrar el proceso de Beijing y construir esta agenda feminista mexicana en la cual precisamente participaron un centenar de organizaciones diversas, plurales, de manera colectiva, como somos las mujeres, para seguir haciendo la evaluación de la plataforma de acción, pero también construir propuestas tanto para los gobiernos como para el sector privado e incluso para las instituciones internacionales de derechos humanos. Estamos convencidas que a través de estos diálogos podemos seguir fortaleciendo las rutas y colocando en el centro también a las feministas y nuestros movimientos como eje fundamental de esa transformación. Finalmente diría, Belén, como retomando a nuestra queridísima Rosario Castellanos, por supuesto que debe de haber otro modo de ser humano y libre. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Lucía. Muchísimas gracias por esos recordatorios sobre la centralidad de Beijing, por todos los elementos que nos has mencionado en torno a esa construcción desde el feminismo y la expectativa de que es justamente esa la hoja de ruta en la que estamos trabajando. Y bueno, por acabar con Rosario Castellanos, que sin duda nos inspira, quisiera pasar, y estamos a punto de cerrar, a Nicolette Naylor, que desde la Fundación Ford, Nicolette, nos has ayudado y apoyado para que este foro también sea una realidad. So could you share, Nicolette, what do you think is the main motivation for the foundations and private sector to join Generation Equality Forum, and what does it mean, this effort and this process, for the foundations and private sector? Over to you.
Thank you so much. What I took from the Mexico Forum is that we need action and we need resources, and there's an urgency now because we are actually in a crisis of inequality. So for the Ford Foundation, this process represents an opportunity to elevate the voices of civil society partners from around the world to design this new global agenda. It was exciting that we could have youth organizations, women's rights, feminist organizations sitting around the table on an equal level with governments, the private sector, foundations, multilateral agents to define the problems and the solutions. So our main motivation for joining Generation Equality is that it gave us a chance to tackle global problems in a way that connects our work and allows us to build alliances and partnerships from the local to the global level. It allowed a process to share power more broadly and fairly in a reimagined, more networked multilateral space. And this is exciting for us because we do need to reimagine multilateralism in a much more inclusive way. And Generation Equality has shown us how to do that. Young feminists and civil society have led the way, saying we don't just want a seat at the table, we want to redesign the whole table. So Generation Equality has allowed us to work with stakeholders that we don't ordinarily work with, from governments or multilateral agencies. It's given us momentum to harness more and better political leadership, and very importantly, financial resources to support the work of feminist movements. Because as the Ford Foundation, we can't solve these problems on our own. The time is now for new and better partnerships and collaboration between philanthropy, governments, women's funds, the feminist movement, and UN Women. We can't afford to continue working in silos and in fragmented ways if we want to shift systems and structures of power. So this process facilitated a really powerful way of building alliances, like the alliance, the Global Alliance for Care with Mexico, or the Global Alliance for Sustainable Feminist Movements with Canada and the Netherlands. And these alliances are powerful because it's not just between governments and foundations, it's also got civil society and feminist movements at the center. And together we can generate greater coordination, collaboration, and impact, and more resources, because we need actions, we need resources, and we need stronger partnerships across all the action coalitions if we want to take this agenda forward beyond Paris. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicolette. Thank you so much for that vision and that emphasis, again, on the support and resources that are needed, but also I really like how you mentioned reimagining multilateralism. And I think that a taste of that was really felt in Mexico. So we are about to finish this beautiful and inspiring panel. I would really like to thank all and each of you, not only for what you shared today, but also for all the effort you've made for making all of this happening. Before we close, I really would like to give back the floor shortly to Nadine Gasman, who really chaired the Generation Equality Forum from the Institute of Women in Mexico. Have your final words, and then I will do a final closing. Thank you, Nadine, to you.
Thank you very much, Belén. And I think my final words are the final words I use in Mexico. Thank you. I think there's a lot of people we need to thank for this endeavor. There are thousands of people that were committed, that are working, that are moving, especially the young girls, the young women, the men, the people in their diversity, the teams that work from the world in this new way we are working through Zoom, that stick to the process for many months. Obviously, the global and the Mexican civil society advisory group, the multi-stakeholders groups. And I want to thank very much the UN Women partners, both in New York, in the world, and in Mexico. And I also want to give a big thanks to the teams that have made this possible. And a very special thanks to Ambassador Janet Morgan, that has been really bringing us together and having all this collaborative space and energy to really keep this going. We are very proud and are very happy to pass the torch to Paris. We're passing the torch because light is something that multiplies. You give it and you keep it. So let's keep in our hearts, in our minds, in our commitments, the idea that we are working for the generation equality, that we're part of this, we are part, and we will be part of it. And we won't stop until we see that every girl, every woman, every person in the world can live a free and happy life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nadine, for closing with this very clear commitment, in which I think, and I'm sure we are all joining. I would like to, first of all, thank the panelists today for an amazing inspiration and commitment and reminding of what we need to do. Nadine, Hakima, Chamathya, Eugenia, Nicolette, Lucía, Phumzile, and Marta, thank you so much for being with us today and for being part of the forum that is starting tomorrow in Paris. I would also like to join Nadine in thanking every single person who has made possible for us to be here today. I would really like to join in thanking Janerit Morgan, the Executive Secretary of the Forum in Mexico, querida Janerit. Let me thank also my colleague Patricia Cortez, who has made incredible efforts for the meeting today and for all the work we've done together, all the teams of the Mexican government, all the teams of civil society groups, all the people from the civil society, from Youth Task Force, my colleagues from UN Women in Mexico and in New York, and again to all of you for all your commitment. Please be connected, don't get lost. We are making available a report that summarizes the forum in Mexico. That report will be available in the webpage that we have created with the government of Mexico, forogeneracionigualdad.mx. We will have a document with the forum results, but also an interactive document, the videos and every material that emerged from this vibrating moment in Mexico. And again, please share all this information with all your friends, colleagues, and let's try to keep the momentum going. This is the presentation of the report that I referred to. And we will leave you with a beautiful video that was produced by the Youth Task Force, which we saw in Mexico, and we thought it was very important to leave this space with the spirit of the youth, the voices of the youth and the inspiration, so that we take it forward. So thank you, everybody, and we'll leave it with this.
COVID-19 has shown the world that young people are at the forefront of some of the most pressing issues globally.
At the Generation Equality Forum, we are reminded that young people are at the forefront of gender equality.
But our fight for gender equality does not stop until we're all free. In 2026, we want
to build back a greater future that centers all young people at the core of decision-making.
To shift power and resources through core flexible funding that goes directly to young feminist movements.
We want increased protection for the feminist movements across the world.
To have so many more women elected to government.
A world where human rights are respected, where bodily autonomy is guaranteed even in times of crisis.
That all menstruators around the world, particularly socioeconomically disadvantaged rural women and girls, have access to menstrual hygiene products, and that the stigma around menstruation is eliminated.
That is to hold the government accountable to the unfulfilled business of justice, to the sexual slavery under the colonization.
We want direct and unrestricted funding to young feminist movements around the world.
I envisage a 2026 when all genders and sexualities can live free from violence.
A world free from violence, discrimination, and harassment to enable girls and young women to reach their fullest potential.
All indigenous women and girls have access to education, healthcare, and live free from violence.
Children are educated free of gender stereotypes.
I envision a world where all people are equally able to enjoy their sexual and reproductive health and rights, including access to family planning and responsible parenthood, and HIV and STI services.
The World Economic Forum predicts that we will not achieve gender parity for another 99.5 years. But we don't have time.
Join the fight today.
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 Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Un aplauso para todos.
Thank you.
Gracias. Hasta luego.
Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.
Gracias. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Almost 300 participants. Bye.
Great, Patricia. Great.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.